Dr. Jekyll spent his daylight hours as a beloved physician, but at night, as Mr. Hyde, he roamed the ill-reputed sections of London, plying his career of sin and wanton crime. When he was ready to return to the personality of Dr. Jekyll, he would return to his home and enter through the laboratory door. He would then prepare the drug potion, swallow it, and after a change of clothes, become the distinguished doctor again. This dual personality of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde would have probably gone on without detection if it were not for an incident that occurred nearly a year later. One night, a servant in a house near the river was seated by her window. By the light of the moon, she saw two figures approaching each other from opposite directions. She recognized the little man as Mr. Hyde, who had on occasion visited her master. As they met, the other gentleman bowed and spoke softly to Mr. Hyde. Suddenly, seized with an uncontrollable rage, Hyde struck the old gentleman with his stick and clubbed him to the ground. With ape-like fury, Hyde trampled his victim. Then he again loosed a hail of blows with his stick on the poor man. Leaving the broken, dead body in the roadway, Hyde hurried away and disappeared in the shadows. Stunned by what she had seen, the maid let out a scream and fainted dead away. When she recovered, she quickly summoned the police. "Did you get a description of the man?" "I know him, officer. His name is Hyde. He once had some business with my master." The policeman picked up a broken walking stick from beside the body. "This must be the murder weapon, or part of it. The murderer must have carried the other half away with him." They quickly searched through the victim's pocket and... "Here's a letter addressed to Mr. Utterson. Maybe he has a clue to this thing." The next morning, "We found this letter addressed to you on the body of a man who was killed last night." Good heavens! How did this happen? The officer told him of the crime, as the maid had witnessed it. "We would like to have you come and identify the body, Mr. Utterson." In a moment they were off to the station. "Do you know who the murdered man is, sir?" "I shall say nothing until I have seen the body." At the station, Utterson was led to the cell containing the body. "Yes, it is as I feared. This man is Sir Danvers Carew." "Sir Danvers? Well, this makes the case doubly important. Perhaps you can help us with the identity of the murderer. We found this broken stick beside the body, sir." "This very much resembles the stick I presented to Dr. Jekyll on his birthday." "You say this man is of small stature?" "Particularly small and particularly evil-looking, the maid calls him. His name is Mr. Hyde." "If you come with me, I think I can take you right to his house." They rode off to a house in Soho that Dr. Jekyll had recently purchased for the sole use of Mr. Hyde. Mr. Utterson knew of this house, as he had taken care of the matter at Dr. Jekyll's request. They stopped before a dingy-looking house in a dismal quarter of the town. Here lived Edward Hyde, heir to £250,000. The door was opened by a silvery-haired old woman. "Is Edward Hyde at home?" "No, sir, he is not. He was in last night very late, but left again in less than an hour, sir." "I'm afraid I shall have to see his room." "I cannot let you in, sir. My master will be furious." "This is Inspector Newcomen of Scotland Yard. We are here on official police business." The woman's face lit up with joy.
"Oh, is he in trouble? What has he done?"
"He doesn't seem to be a very popular character. And now, my good woman, just let me and this gentleman have a look about." They were led to an elegantly furnished but messy room. "It certainly looks like Mr. Hyde left in a hurry. What's this? A cheque-book? Now why should he want to burn his cheque-book? Here's the other half of the murder weapon. We have our man now, sir. He must have lost his head, or he never would have left his stick. All we have to do is get out the handbills and wait for him at the bank." A visit to the bank showed several £1,000s to the murderer's credit. However, no trace of Hyde could be found. He had never been photographed, the only identity being the incongruous appearance of the man and the sense of revulsion with which the fugitive impressed all those that had seen him. Late that afternoon, Utterson showed up at Dr. Jekyll's home.
"Come in, sir."
Poole led him through the back yard into a small house where the doctor had his laboratory. Dr. Jekyll sat before the fire looking deathly sick.
"Oh, Utterson, come in, come in. Poole, please leave us alone."
And now, Henry, I suppose you have heard the news? The doctor shuddered.
"They are crying it in the square. I heard it in my dining room."
One word. Carew was my client, but so are you, and I want you to know what I am doing. You have not been mad enough to hide this fellow?
"Utterson, I swear to God I will never set eyes on him again. I bind my honour that I am done with him in this world. It is all at an end. Indeed, he does not want my help. You do not know him as I do. He is safe. He is quite safe. Mark my word, he will never more be heard of."
You seem pretty sure of him. For your sake, I hope you may be right. If it came to a trial, your name might be involved.
"I have received a letter, and I am at loss whether I should show it to the police. I give it to you, Utterson, as I have such great trust in you."
You fear, of course, that it may lead to his detection?
"No, I cannot say that I care what becomes of Hyde. I am quite done with him. I was thinking of my own character that this whole business may expose."
Utterson was surprised at his friend's selfishness, yet was relieved by it.
"My dear Dr. Jekyll, you who I have so long repaid for 1,000 generosities unworthily, need not concern yourself for my safety. I have means of escape on which I place a sure dependence. Edward Hyde."
I like this letter well enough, as it seems to put a much more favourable light on the intimacy between the two men. Do you have the envelope in which this letter came?
I burned it before I thought what it was about. It bore no postmark, as it was brought by a messenger.
And now, one more word. It was Hyde who dictated the terms in your will about your disappearance. The doctor was seized with a sudden faintness. He shut his mouth tight and nodded. I knew it. He meant to murder you. You have had a narrow escape.
I have had what is far more to the purpose. Oh, what a lesson I have had!"
On his way out, Utterson stopped to have a word with Poole. What was that messenger like, the one who handed in that letter to Dr. Jekyll?
"There was no messenger here today, sir. Only the post, and they contained nothing but bills."
As the lawyer walked away, his fears were again aroused by the mystery of the letter.
"Special edition. Read all about it. The shocking murder of Danvers Carew."
I pray the good name of Jekyll be not sucked down in the eddy of this scandal. About an hour later, Utterson was in his study with his head clerk, Mr. Guest. I say, Guest, this is a sad business about Sir Danvers.
"Yes, sir, indeed."
I should like your views on this letter. It is a document in Hyde's handwriting. You might call it a murderer's autograph. Mr. Guest, a keen student of handwriting, examined the document.
"It is rather an odd hand."
And, by all accounts, a very odd writer. Just then a servant entered with a note, and the keen eye of Guest caught a glimpse of the handwriting.
"Is this from Dr. Jekyll, sir? I thought I recognised the handwriting. Anything private?"
Only an invitation to dinner. Here, you may look at it. Guest laid the two papers side by side and compared them carefully.
"Thank you, sir. It's a very interesting autograph."
There was a pause, during which Utterson struggled with himself. Then, why did you compare them, Guest?
"Well, sir, there's a rather singular resemblance. The two hands are in many points identical, only differently sloped."
I wouldn't speak of this note to anyone. You understand?
"I understand, sir."
When the head clerk had left, Utterson locked the note in his safe. Henry Jekyll forged for the murderer? It's all like a bad dream. Thousands of pounds were offered in reward for the capture of the murderer of Sir Danvers, but Mr. Hyde had disappeared as though he never existed. Dr. Jekyll, who had been in seclusion for some time after these events, gradually renewed relations with his friends. He continued his practice,
tending gently to the sick. His face seemed to open and brighten as if with an inward consciousness of service, and for more than 2 months Dr. Henry Jekyll was at peace. But Dr. Jekyll's peace of mind was unfortunately short-lived. Like a drunken man who is a slave to drink, Jekyll was soon overcome with an uncontrollable urge to drink again of the wicked potion. He entered his laboratory, prepared the potion, and drank it down. The transformation complete, Dr. Jekyll, now in the form of Hyde, changed his clothes and stole out into the shadows. He made his way swiftly and silently to his usual haunts, and continued where he had left off in his career of crime. He then hurried back to his laboratory, mixed the potion, and drank it. Restored to respectability, he left for his study. In his study he was overcome with remorse.
"Oh God, save me from myself! Help me to overcome my weakness!"
A week passed, and Dr. Jekyll, with a supreme effort, managed to control his savage desire to again take the vile drink of transformation. One night he retired to his bedroom, took a sedative, and soon fell asleep. Several hours later he awoke feeling somewhat strange. Slowly he felt familiar and terrible racking pains. As he looked into the mirror, a chill crept down his spine. He had gone to bed as Dr. Jekyll, and had awakened as Mr. Hyde.